Good evening and welcome to Wednesday Night Wellness Live. I'm Dr. Andrew Merrill here at Nightlight Chiropractic, and every week we do these Wednesday Night Wellness Live videos so that we can share with you, the viewer, all the things that we talk about with our patients here in the office. And I wanted to start out this week by saying that my staff just reminded me today that we're celebrating 9 years of practice, so it's our 9th anniversary as a business, and then we're celebrating our 1-year anniversary in our new building, so that's kind of cool. And so it leads me right into, as we've gotten busier, what I've noticed is that we've been seeing a lot more car accidents, right? And outwardly, initially, you might think that that's a good thing for a chiropractor, that's keeping us busy, but my job here is to keep my patients well, right? So I would much prefer you to not be involved in an auto accident and you to not have back pain and neck pain. And if I'm doing my job well, we're preventing some of that. Nevertheless, we're seeing lots of car accidents these days. So I wanted to dedicate this video to avoiding, reducing injury from, and then worst case scenario, what to do after you're involved in an auto accident, because we're seeing so many of them. I don't know if it's because of the traffic or because of the road construction going on here in Orlando or what it is, but literally almost every day somebody new comes in after suffering from an accident. So let's jump right into it here, how to avoid an accident, and it's going to be real simple to get started. You got to focus on the road when you're driving, right? If you're paying attention to what's going on around you, if your goal, your number one goal and what you're doing is watching the road and watching the traffic, you're going to be able to avoid an accident. That means no texting, that means no smoking, that means no eating, that means no playing with the radio, that means no reading a newspaper. This stuff happens, folks. And then also, too, there's research out recently that shows that even messing with a hands-free device, so even if you're trying to use a hands-free device to place a phone call or to send a text or to change the radio station or whatever, you are still distracted and the risk of accident actually goes up, and that's some recent research that I was just reading the other day. So obviously you can't be driving under the influence, right? Impaired driving is unfortunately, it's not even the number one cause of accidents anymore. Not focusing on the road and doing that other stuff has surpassed it, but nevertheless, driving under the influence, whether it's of alcohol or drugs or medications that impair driving, all of these things slow your reaction time, they increase your risk of suffering in an accident, right? And right along with that impaired driving idea is driving while tired. And this is something that the DOT, the Department of Transportation, focuses on quite a bit, right? So we do DOT physicals here for some of these truck drivers that are driving around, and the DOT is very particular about asking questions about sleep apnea. Does the driver get good sleep at night? About snoring. If the driver is snoring, maybe they haven't been diagnosed with sleep apnea, but they could still be driving around tired. And then the number of hours that they drive per day and per week at a time. And they're very, very strict about these things because they have realized that driving while tired is equal to driving while impaired is equal to increased car accidents, and we're trying to avoid these things. So you need to make sure that you're not driving while tired. If you're doing a long road trip, make sure that you're taking breaks, make sure that somebody else is helping with some of that driving time, whatever it is, just don't drive tired. So you also want to drive defensively, right? And that's one thing that we see here in Orlando a lot. Maybe if you're in a big city watching this, you can share with me in the comments below if you suffer from this as well. But I see a lot of merging traffic where one car is just like, we're doing this. Like, I'm going, and if you want to crash into me, even if you have the right of way, I'm still going, and that's just what it is. So you have to drive defensively if you want to avoid an accident. Trust me, an accident is not worth you being the next in line or getting your right of way. It's much more important to get where you're going safely. If you are in an auto accident, even if it's a minor accident, it's going to slow you down. Give somebody else the right of way, even if it's not theirs. Drive defensively. Make sure that you avoid that accident. So sometimes it's not possible to avoid an accident, right? You're sitting there minding your own business, you're stopped at a red light and somebody rear-ends you. So we want to know, are there things that you can do that are going to reduce the injury or the likelihood of injury while you're in an accident, right? And so first and foremost of these, and again, I cannot believe that it's 2019 and I'm having to say this, but you need to wear a seatbelt. If you're still not wearing a seatbelt, I don't know what it's going to take to convince you. Maybe it's just impossible to convince you, but it reduces the risk of injury. It reduces the risk of fatality when you're involved in a car accident. So just do it. Wear the seatbelt. It's really important. It's the easiest, quickest, simplest, most important thing that you can do to decrease the potential for injury and the severity of injury that happens when you're involved in an auto accident. You need to make sure that your headrest is in the right position, right? So if your headrest is too low relative to your head, it allows for whiplash trauma to be more severe. You're going to end up with more neck injury if you're involved in a car accident. Same thing if your headrest is too far forward or too far backward, it allows your head to whip back and forth, and we don't want that. So you want your headrest to be in a neutral position. You want your head to be back. You want your head to be touching that headrest, and you don't want to be too close to the steering wheel. That's the last thing. So if you're too close to the steering wheel, the risk of the airbag hitting you and causing other injury becomes real. So sitting back, head against the headrest with your seatbelt on, very, very simple stuff, right? Stuff that hopefully you're already doing and it's just like second nature to you, but just make sure that you're doing it. Now, the last point that I'm going to say about this topic of reducing the risk of injury or the severity of injury if you're involved in an auto accident is this. And I was just reading about this today, and this is kind of interesting to me. You need to make sure that when it's time to get a new vehicle, you're getting a new vehicle, right? And so what they're finding, and a lot of this research is coming out of the auto industry, is that newer vehicles are much better equipped to handle an accident than older vehicles. It might sound common sense to you, but I'm just interested in the research as you're reading the research. And so a newer vehicle has a lower risk of rollover, right? If you get hit from the side, you're much less likely to roll over. Trust me, rollover injuries are severe no matter what happens. If your vehicle rolls, you're going to have injury. And then the second thing that was more interesting to me is that the newer vehicles sit differently, and the seats are oriented in the vehicle differently, so that when you get rear-ended, it absorbs impact and it isn't transmitted into your neck and into your spine so much. So a newer vehicle is safer for you. I know that some of you watching out there can make a pitch to your spouse later that it's time, I have to. Dr. Merrill said that I need a newer vehicle because it's going to protect me and the family, and that's going to be the pitch, and maybe you should. Maybe that would be a good idea. So newer vehicle beats older vehicle when it comes to auto accidents. So then the last thing let's talk about, so you were in an auto accident, you did everything that you could, but you still have injury after an auto accident. So what are you supposed to do after an auto accident, right? What happens? What are the steps? So the first thing is to make sure that your vehicle is out of the roadway so that there's not a secondary accident or something else that happens. The second thing you should do is make sure that if emergency medical services needs to show up on the scene, that they've been notified by somebody to show up at the scene of the accident, right? So that all parties can get treated with emergency services if they need to be treated like that. And then the rest of it all is kind of secondary. Yes, you need to contact an attorney. Yes, you need to contact your insurance company, not necessarily in any of that order. Yeah, you should contact a chiropractor, right? So we do great work with soft tissue injuries. We do great work with spinal injuries. Let a chiropractor assess your spine to make sure that there's nothing overtly very dangerous for you in the short run, and then nothing that is going to become chronic in the long run if you don't look at it early. So a lot of the other research shows that if you're treating these whiplash disorders early on after the car accident, you get much better outcomes, right? So something between 7 and 10% of people after a whiplash trauma end up with pain way later in life. Some say it's permanent. I don't know if they've done studies to show that it goes on lifelong, but way down the road, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road, you're ending up with spinal pain related to this auto accident that you didn't get cared for. So it's important to end up going to the chiropractor sooner than later, as soon as possible, end up going to the chiropractor. The other thing is you need to use ice. Use ice that night, right? So the accident happens, maybe you go to the hospital, maybe you don't, maybe they give you medication, maybe they don't, take x-rays, whatever it is, but you need to be putting ice on that evening to reduce the acute swelling that's going on there. So we see a lot of patients here as well for second opinions, right? So a lot of times after a car accident, maybe you've talked to your attorney sent you to a facility, you're not happy with that facility, whether it's the wait time, whether it's the distance, whether it's what they're doing, whether it's just how they make you feel, I don't know. But we do a lot of second opinions for car accident cases. And I'm not saying, come here and we're going to do something different. You might be at a great place. They might be doing exactly the right thing. And if you come in for a second opinion and that's the case, I'm going to tell you exactly that. Stay right there. I think that's the best place for you. They're like right next to your house. They're getting you care. They're getting you the imaging that you need, whether it's x-rays or MRIs or both. They're making sure to get a second opinion from a medical doctor as well. All of these things I think are very important after a car accident, but make sure that you're going through some of that scenario. Like you wouldn't know otherwise if you're at a good facility or a bad facility, but go back through that checklist because what I just rattled off are things that should be happening somewhere along the line of your care. So anyways, that's all I have for this evening. As usual, if we can help you in any way, don't hesitate hesitate to go to www.nightlightchiropractic.com. Fill out the form there. We'd be happy to see you here as a patient. Take care of spinal pain, neck pain, back pain, headaches. That's what we do here. Otherwise, if you want more information about this topic or lots of other topics, you can go to drandrewmerrillblog.com and find all kinds of great information, just general health information, not necessarily specific to you, but just good general information that you might not get anywhere else. Anyways, that's all I have for this evening. Happy Wednesday night to you. I will see you next Wednesday for another Wednesday Night Wellness Live. Good night.